Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out of this world story from See Cheating Secrets podcast. You will be as much value to others as you have been to yourself. Today in Cheating Secrets podcast, we learn how important it is to love and respect ourselves because if we can't love ourselves, how the heck can we expect others to love us? Value yourself enough to choose to be with someone who wants you as much as you want them. Story. Start. My wife had an online affair, and we started going to marriage counseling. Any advice is appreciated. I, a 24-year-old male, and my wife, a 23-year-old female, have had a rocky relationship for the last 6 months. We got married 2.5 years ago. The marriage counselor was open and honest with me about my mistakes, and although I was a bit hard-headed, I eventually understood my issues and started to make drastic changes. I'm now going to the gym 5 days a week. I've been much more persistent in loving and dating my wife. I've been listening to her instead of trying to answer every question. I have grown closer to God in my faith. Essentially, I have been growing as an individual to be the best version of myself. And for about 3 days, I was feeling great about my efforts and telling her how sorry I was for how I've been. However, despite this, I still noticed her being distant. I thought that she just needed time to see that my efforts in changing were genuine. I wasn't perfect. I made mistakes with her. I stopped being the guy she wanted to be with. But I apologized for this and told her that going forward, a change would happen. My marriage counselor saw this change and was proud of me for making these changes. But also, through this time, I noticed how she had been growing closer to her online friends. She has been receiving Snapchats. She holds the phone away from me when she texts, and she acts cold to me when I try to be intimate. Yesterday, I felt like something still wasn't adding up, that there was this piece of the puzzle that was missing. I loved this woman and had been giving my all, listening in marriage counseling, doing what I needed to do to change, and yet there was no change for her. So, I checked one of her devices, despite knowing already what I would probably find. On the device, everything was revealed. Ever since we started going to counseling, she has been sexting and messaging one of her online friends. Doing it while I'm not home at work, doing it in our bed, doing it all, while I told her my greatest fear was being cheated on, and she told me that I never have to worry about that from her. I was not distraught upon finding this. Instead, I felt vindicated that this relationship was failing not just because of my mistakes, but because she was also failing. I immediately called my marriage counselor, and she was shocked to hear this. She stated that this was unexpected from her and explained how I should handle it. I confronted my wife when she got home from work. I asked her to sit in the living room with my mother and father present to have witnesses. I told her that I knew and asked her what her plan was. For me to find out and then walk? For her to keep this up as I was getting better? She said she didn't have a plan, nor an excuse. She said she feels terrible she did this and said that it was a friendship that got out of hand, that she wanted to stop, but used it as an escape from our marriage problems. She said she was never ready to get married, that she got married because that's what she was expected to do, having a sheltered religious upbringing. She revealed these deeper issues to me, but again said she should have been more honest with me and feels nothing but regret and shame for her actions. That night, we slept in separate beds for the first time in a long time. Just the night before, she told me how much she loved me and was proud of me for getting better. This whole time it was a lie. She was seeking pleasure from another man. I went for a walk last night and prayed my heart out. I went back to the room and told her I forgive her, but I'm still hurt. I told her I still want this to work, but things would need to be different. My marriage counselor stated that we would be having an emergency meeting on Monday. In the meeting, a plan will be put in place on how to proceed. In my heart, I still love her, and I want to make this work and rebuild. However, if she is hesitant or says she needs more time to figure herself out, then it will be over. My marriage counselor said I need to value myself because I deserve to be loved and chased after by someone who will put in 100%, just like me, in making this work. To be honest, though, I already kind of know that her heart probably isn't in it to make it work. But until I ask her directly and get a straight answer, I will not know. What hurts the most is that she was never honest about how she felt. If she was really feeling like it was too late after my mistakes, then I'd rather she had just left me. This has rocked my confidence, which I was already struggling with. This morning, she said she was in disbelief that I could find it in myself to forgive her. But she doesn't know how she can forgive herself and needs that time. Last night, she said she wanted to just be friends for now, as being close feels too painful. It's understandable, as D-Day just happened. I'm not spiteful of her. My faith in God and my belief system have given me peace through this hurricane of emotions. I want the best for her. I want her to be happy. If it's with me, then we will reconcile and work it out. If it isn't, I hope she finds happiness somewhere else in life since she does have really deep emotional issues tied to her family origins. I would like some advice from those here on how I should approach this going forward, on what feelings I might expect, and what life will be like if this doesn't work out, or if it does. I love this woman, I do, but I also know if it wasn't meant to be, then it wasn't meant to be. Comment. Our first bit of advice comes from Necessary Sector 358. My wife couldn't understand how her betrayed husband could forgive her. She did, however, after much discussion, come to accept it happened. Now, for a very long time, she is grateful whenever we think about it, which honestly isn't much. Note, forgiveness came after the truth came out. Trust is based on truth. I don't think the truth has been examined yet. I think you two may be way too early to make any long-term decisions. I think it would be appropriate to separate. The just be friends comment seems too convenient. Commit to reconcile or divorce. You can always drop the divorce paperwork if it looks like you and she are really committed to reconcile. Reaction. Your counselor is right, OP. You need to value yourself. It's unacceptable to let people walk all over you and betray you like this. She made poor choices, and now she has to suffer the consequences. You are putting in more effort than she has. You're bettering yourself, and she just seems to be half-assing this. In fact, from what you've said, she doesn't seem to be remorseful at all. I feel like she would have been more upset if she wanted to make things work. We shouldn't have to chase people and force them to love us and treat us the way we deserve to be treated. It's very easy for someone we love, and who loves us, to respect us by respecting and honoring the relationship or marriage. I think you really have to ask yourself if you could live with yourself knowing that your partner isn't fully invested. By forgiving her, it means putting yourself second and really devaluing yourself. Update. My wife had an online affair when we started marriage counseling. It turns out this affair has been going on since January. Back then, it was more of an emotional affair, but it escalated as time went on. Last night, she stated that she has been wanting out of the marriage since January, but didn't know how to say it because she was afraid. This was despite me never laying a hand on her or ever yelling at her. She even contacted him again last night after she said she would break things off. I asked her up front if she had feelings for this guy, and she said yes, she did. She said that she is sorry, that I deserve a better wife, and I agreed. She said that she is messed up and a terrible person, and yes, I agreed. She said she is a habitual liar, and yep, nailed that one. She's been lying to my face for 5 months now, saying that everything was fine and nothing was going on. She has been slowly turning the story against me with her friends and family, privately telling them how I don't like any of them, how I put on a fake face around people, but I'm a selfish person. Yeah, I wonder how much of that was just her trying to play it up, because she caught feelings for another guy. I still told her that I loved her. Deep down I do, but because I love myself also, I can't do this anymore. She hurt me. She has continued to hurt me this year. She has made me feel like I have had to walk on eggshells around her, trying to figure out what she was thinking. I had to live in fear of whether I was or wasn't doing the correct things, even though I have sincerely apologized for mistakes I've made, and she has said she forgave me, but she never did. It hurts being lied to, thinking someone was willing to give me a chance when it was all a lie. I don't even know what her plan was, to keep this up for longer while I continued to think it was all my fault, to eventually walk away randomly without me ever knowing why. She says she feels disrespected that I checked her devices to discover all this, but how does she think I feel? She said that, from the very beginning of our marriage, she knew she wasn't ready, but never expressed it to me, never gave me hints.
The years that followed were a blur of attempts to rebuild my life. I moved to a different town, far away from the memories of my past. I found a job teaching at a community college, a far cry from the prestigious institution I had once been a part of. My reputation followed me, and there were always whispers, but I tried to focus on the future. Robert remarried, finding happiness with someone who could give him the stability and fidelity I had failed to provide. I didn't begrudge him his new life. He deserved it. I, on the other hand, struggled to find a sense of peace. The guilt and shame never fully left me, haunting me in quiet moments. As for Ben, I heard through mutual acquaintances that he eventually returned to college and graduated. He moved to the West Coast, pursuing his dream of becoming a writer. His talent was undeniable, and I hoped that he would find success and happiness free from the shadow of our past. One evening, a few years after everything had fallen apart, I received a letter. It was from Ben. My hands trembled as I opened it, the familiar handwriting bringing back a flood of memories. Dear Claire, I hope this letter finds you well. I thought about writing to you many times, but I never knew what to say. There are still so many emotions tied up in our past: regret, sadness, but also a kind of bittersweet nostalgia. I wanted you to know that I'm doing okay. I published a few short stories and I'm working on a novel. It's been a long journey, but I feel like I'm finally finding my way. I don't know if you'll ever be able to forgive yourself for what happened between us, but I want you to know that I don't blame you. We both made choices, and we both have to live with the consequences, but I also want you to know that, despite everything, I don't regret loving you. You taught me so much about passion, about life, about myself. I hope you found some peace, and that you're happy. You deserve that much. Take care, Ben. I read the letter over and over, tears streaming down my face. It was a small comfort, knowing that he had found some measure of happiness and that he didn't hold our past against me. It didn't erase the pain, but it helped to soften the edges of my guilt. As I sat by the window, watching the sunset on another day, I felt a glimmer of hope. The past would always be a part of me, but maybe, just maybe, I could find a way to move forward, to forgive myself, to live again. Do you think I deserve to find happiness again? Like and subscribe to read more stories like these.